Okay. I think this is working. So this morning I basically started refactoring this little to-do app that we have. We have this demo here showing off kind of basics of using Mirage. And we wrote this when we were first learning React. And so we didn't use any data fetching libraries because we wanted to kind of do it ourselves. And we ended up with, some messy code just because, again, we were learning and a lot of this stuff is taken care of by libraries these days. So this is like a front-end CRUD React app built against a Mirage mock backend. And, it does fetching right here. It does creation, so test. And you'll notice basically like we have some latency on the Mirage server. So it takes a while for the response to get back. But in the UI, it's kind of instant. So it uses this optimistic UI pattern. And then, you can delete things by clicking clear, and you can update them by checking them off. So what I was starting to work on this morning was refactoring this just so that the code is a little bit clearer for folks who come across this. And I wanted to use this new popular data fetching library from Zeit. It's called SWR. And I want to see if I can basically kind of rip out all of our custom code here and replace this with SWR. So let's get into it. So I've already added SWR here. 02 as of this recording. And let's just kind of pick back up where I left off. So we have all these event handlers. We have this really weird request manager thing that we ended up doing to help us with this optimistic UI. Here's create to do, here's save to do, here's delete completed. And then when the app kicks off, it's basically this one component right here. I guess we have a to do component down there. I don't even remember what this is. Ref state. We use an effect to fetch the initial to do. So this is, I think, a good place to start to replace this. So let me see if I can get two up here. So if I remove this, we should see, this kind of gets stuck in a loading state. So loading is a piece of state we have, and to-dos is a piece of state we have. But we are going to be replacing some of that here. So I think we first import SWR, and then let's find that use effect. And instead of this, we get to do this kind of thing. So the API endpoint here is API/todos, and fetcher is something we need to pass in. So let's start by just defining this up here. I think the idea is this can kind of work with a lot of different data fetching libraries, but for our use case, we'll be able to do the simple case of just using fetch here. So we'll just grab this example from the docs. And now if I were to check this out, we do see that we're hitting Mirage when we first load the app, and we're getting data back. So now we just need to use this kind of in our template. So this gives us data and an error. Let's ignore that for now. And I'm just going to rename this to new to-dos so that we can use this kind of in place of our old to-dos state. So we use it here, and right here, and right there. So the last part is to swap this is loading state right here, which we used to kind of manually track. This is one of the things that SWR is so good at, taking care of all this for you. And so if you search for loading here, you'll see that use SWR doesn't actually return a loading flag. You just kind of derive it based on whether or not you have any data. And so we should just be able to say, if we don't have new to-dos, then we'll show the loading screen. Otherwise, we'll paint the to-dos. So now we're kind of back to that initial state. Show the loading, fetch it, and then now we're rendering from that. So that's pretty cool. Okay, so obviously the problem is, this is not being updated. Well, this is still working. But we can see this is not being updated even though Mirage has been updated. So let's fix, let's do a new to-do creation. So let's find out where we are creating that new to-do. And I'm actually interested to see if we'll be able to do the optimistic UI here with this library. I'm not actually optimistic positive if we can or not, because it might take a different approach. And honestly, for the purpose of this demo, I don't mind keeping it simpler, so that folks aren't overwhelmed by the code if this is the first time they see Mirage demos and Mirage code. But it'll be interesting to see. So let's figure out where we create that to do. So we should have like an on submit somewhere, form on submit. This is in our to do component, looks like. And handle submit is commit changes local to do dot current. Okay, so it's starting to come back to me, kind of some of the things we did here. I'm going to go ahead and check out a branch just in case I want to throw this all away. Okay, we already did. So this was another interesting thing I ran into learning React. You can see here that we iterate over the list of to-dos right up here. Where is it? Right here. So once we fetch the to-dos, we iterate over them. Now, this to-dos array, which we're calling new to-dos just because we're refactoring, is owned by the parent, right? The parent is our app. It's our to-dos app. And so the state lives on the parent. So then we iterate over the list of to-dos and render in a to-do component, passing in each to-do. So then within the to-do component, we can do things like edit this. And when we wrote this, we wanted to be able to edit this locally like this and then decide when to commit. So the to-do component is responsible for saying, okay, once we blur, let's go ahead and commit this. But conceptually, the to-do component kind of has its own local state, right? So we had this kind of problem where the source of truth lived on the parent, and within the to-do component, we actually wanted to have its own local version. So this is where this ref state thing came in, because we had to use a ref for some reason. I can't quite remember, but basically we copy in the to-do that's pasted in, that's passed in as a prop, so that the to-do component has its own thing, its own local thing, and it can go to town on it. You could imagine like undoing it or whatever without having to change the parent array. So that's what that's all about. Then we call this, let's just start with this commit changes. So commit changes is this function right here. I think we reuse it whether you hit enter or blur out, which is why it's a separate function. So we set is focus to false. We see whether or not we have changes. Oh yeah, there's also this where you can click on the checkbox and that should commit it. And then we go ahead and pass this to the onChange handler, which is another prop. So let's follow this back up. So the parent is going to actually decide what to do when it's changed. So each one of these to-do components gets an onChange, which is called save to do. So save to do should be where we update this. And so save to do uses this request manager thing. This had to do with multiple saves going out at a time and keeping our list of to-dos consistent. We update the local state. This is the optimistic part, optimistic UI, before the request goes out. And then we go ahead and make the patch request. And then we tell our little request manager that this particular request is done. This was for this little, you'll see this blue icon. And you can find this demo if you go to miragereactdemo.netlify.com. This is the current place where it's hosted, and the code is over here, Mirage.js/React demo. So this is what I'm kind of working on. And you'll see here, if I click this, hit test, as long as there's a single request pending, the little cloud icon shows up. So that's what that's all about. So we'll have to see if we can figure that one out as well. So let's try to replace this fetch here with SWR, because right now this is still happening. So it's still making the right request to our backend. But of course, this list isn't updating it because we're not using SWR there as well. So we need to find out how to do mutations. You can broadcast a revalidation message globally with the same key by calling mutate key. This example shows how to automatically refetch the login info when the user clicks log out. So it might be a little bit of a different mental model that I'm used to. Mutate, tell it to revalidate all these things. So let's just try this out just out of curiosity. Await fetch patch dot then. So at this point, we basically know we've updated the backend. So let's just try to see if we can mutate API users. So yeah, this is a little bit of a different way to think about it. API users, if we go back to our effect, or rather our call to use SWR right here, this is like the key for this query. And so right here, we're saying we know that this needs to be refetched anywhere it is. So let's go ahead and refetch that. And I think I auto imported that, yep, from above. So let's just save this and see if that kind of fixes the list issue here. No. Log, hi. Test. Okay. Oh, whoops, await fetch. Okay, test. Log, hi. Test. Okay, I think I'm in the wrong. Oh, save to do is editing an existing to do. Whoops. Okay, let's comment this out and find where we actually create the to do, which is right here. So here's the JSON, and then here's the creation. And here's where we can call mutate API to-dos. And we should see SWR updating this thing. I hate this little warning thing. Can I hide these? Yes. Test. Oh, that was weird. I got to refetch for some reason. Okay. Oh, maybe this is, I think SWR just like polls. Oh yeah, just polls. Interesting. So let's try this. Test. Yeah, so there it shows up. So test, and then it shows up. So you can see here the SWR model is basically post the new to-do and then let the UI eventually update itself. So really, if we were to leave the UI like this, if you're not looking at the logs and you're just using this thing, there's a lot of this wouldn't work to leave it like this, right? So first we would want to, if I hit enter, because it's now a pessimistic UI, we'd want to leave this text right here. We'd probably want to disable this and fade it out a little bit to indicate that it's saving. We'd have to wait for this guy to finish, and then we'd also have to wait for this guy to finish before removing that cloud icon, because only at that point would the list be updated. So I'm guessing mutate is a promise. In many cases, you're receiving a single value back from your API and you want to update a list. With mutate, you can pass an async function, which will receive the current cached value, if any, and lets you return an updated document. In many cases, you are receiving a single value. Let's go back to the beginning of mutation. Here we go. You can broadcast a revalidation message globally with the same key. Right, so we do have that working. In many cases, applying local mutations to data is a good way to make changes feel faster. Okay, no need to wait for the remote source of data. With mutate, you can update your local data programmatically while revalidating and finally replace it with the latest data. Very cool. Okay, so on click, send the request. That's what we're doing right here. Update the local data immediately and revalidate refetch. Note, key has to be passed to mutate as it's not bound. Okay. Key has to be passed to mutate. New name. Here's our, where's data coming from? I see. Data is coming. Okay, so we can literally just reference the return. Okay. Interesting. Okay, so we're basically just telling SWR what we want the new value of the result of this guy to be right here. And then it's also going to refetch and make sure it's consistent. Okay, that's pretty cool. So I think currently in our create to do function, we get, temp ID here. And then here is the optimistic version of latest to-dos where we used to update it right here. And so I think what we're going to be able to do is basically grab this, and why don't we just move this mutate right up here? So this is basically what we're going to do. So while this is, oh wait, we don't want to do this yet. We want to wait until, do they update it locally first before the response or after? After. And they do await. Okay, that's interesting. So you actually, I actually want to update the cached value of this guy without having to wait for the post request to go out and come back first, right? Because I know as soon as you hit enter, but many post IDs will return the update directly, so we don't need to revalidate again. Here's an example showing the local mutate request update usage. Use false to mutate without revalidation. Okay, perfect. Update user is a promise of the request, which returns the updated document. Local mutate request. Okay. You can pass a function which will receive the current cached value, if any. Maybe this is what we want. Let's do this one first. I think this is actually what we want right here. So mutate this. Latest to-dos, false. So this should let our list update on the client here, and we should not see a refetch unless it's a poll, because I think this is polling all the time. I kind of want to turn polling off just while I'm building this and testing it, because I think this is going to poll again. Maybe it only polls when, oh, that's right. Doesn't it poll when like it receives focus? I think there's some triggers. Oh, that's interesting. It's not refetching the data. So it uses a cache. Wow, that's pretty interesting. Okay, so that's pretty interesting. So right here you see that I replaced my use effect and called a fetch when the app renders, when the to-dos component here renders, with this use SWR call. And that's all I did. I actually haven't used a provider. I haven't wrapped anything in this. So use SWR must be using some persistent state, some global state, even though I haven't created a provider. I'm kind of curious how that works, because when I basically come here, this entire component unmounts, and when I come back home, the data is already there. So that means that this is, what's up, Beth? That means this is able to resolve synchronously. So this is using, I'm trying to remember how this works. How does this use a cache if I don't have any provider at all in the tree? I'm not sure. It can't auto wrap my app in context. I mean, it could use some like module scoped state, like I'm going to ask on Twitter actually, because I don't know the answer to this. I'm playing around with Zeit's SWR and noticed just by dropping this line in my component, synchronously had cache data on subsequent renders. I also didn't wrap my app in any providers or set up context. How does this work? Subsequent mounts. Even though I didn't. Playing around with this and noticed just by using this line, my component synchronously okay. Maybe someone knows the answer to that. Okay, so let's that's pretty cool, first of all. I don't really know how that works, but that's pretty cool. So that means, I mean, there's definitely some context or caching going on here, but what's cool about this is that if I were making a multi-page app, like let's say that this route also happened to use this like cache key for SWR, then it would just work immediately. It wouldn't have to make another request. So it's kind of like it's a query cache. It's a query cache, but it is a global query cache, and I didn't have to wrap my app in a provider or anything. So that's pretty awesome. All right, let's see if we can get this optimistic UI back. So I'm going to hit test right here, and when I create the to-do, I'm going to call that mutate. So test. Okay, so it replaced the whole thing. It's not exactly what I was hoping for. This should revalidate, right? And it should refetch the whole list. Yeah, there we go. So now it has all four. So I'm not understanding this exactly right. use false to mutate without revalidation. Oh, okay. It's because to-dos is it doesn't exist. So I need to get a hold of the data up here, right here, new to-dos. I think that's it. New to-dos. I was just referencing the old state test. Boom. That's so cool. Okay, so I'm basically using this to update my state, so I don't need, I don't need this. This is good. Don't need this one anymore. New to do. Yep. Temp ID counter. I think I need temp IDs because I used an ID as a key in the list. Why do these look so bad? The checkboxes are messed up. I don't know why that is. Okay, so we have optimistic UI now. You know what we need though? We still need to add the true ID from the list here. So I think we need to do this next part. Update user is a promise of the request which returns the updated document. Yeah, so this is a post and it returns the updated document. So we need to do the second step where we call mutate here. This is like resetting the new to-do text box. But let's do that later. Well, that's fine right there. And then this is going to all go away. Basically, we call mutate again, passing in the result of this. So I don't mutate. Most probably you need to data mutate used to update the cache when you passed a promise or async function. The function will return the updated document or throw an error every time you call it. Oh, look at that. The SWR object returned by SWR also contains a mutate function as pre-bound. Oh, that's awesome. Okay, let's get it working with this first, and then we can just use the bound one. That's even better. Okay, so mutate based on current data. So I should just be able to pass this JSON in. Yeah, we need the new source of truth here. So this is going to be a little ugly first, but basically at this point, this is really where I want like an ORM. Like I want, it's just weird to me. Yeah, okay. So after we get the response here, we can basically either, like our UI is consistent test, right? But the state right here, this doesn't actually have like the right ID. So let's come down here to explain what I'm saying. Data test ID is to do, right? Let's go ahead and change this to be to do it's going to break my test, but let's do data to do ID is equal to do dot local to do current dot ID, right? So if you look at each one of these, we should see this is ID 1. Oh, it says ID. Can I make this a little smaller? Yeah. Okay, that wasn't helpful. Right here, list item. data to do 1, 2, and 3, right? I'm going to add a new to do. And now this is going to be T1. This is temporary 1. So at this point, the request has finished. And so ideally, we actually update the DOM with the result of this. So that's what I want to make sure we do. Because otherwise, it will update eventually. See, there we go. It just updated because this get request went out, and now the ID is correct. But I think it should be updated as soon as we get that data back. And I think we can do that with mutate. So let's see mutate. After we get the JSON back, I think it's basically going to look like this. Let's go ahead and should we just inline this? And then we can make this a little more clear, I think. If it's mounted, update it with the record from the server. So that's what we're about to do. That's interesting. I wonder if we'll get an issue with this. Let's keep the is mounted ref right here. Okay. And then right here, let local to do equals local new to do is equal to the data from our new to do and then a temp ID. And that's our optimistic update right here. Optimistic UI update. So test. Yep, that works. But our ID is still what it was before. Okay, it got updated. Now let's do it right here. Optimistic UID, update client-side cache with record from server. So I think it's going to look a lot like this. JSON. And JSON, what does JSON look like? Response. Yeah, it's the actual to do. Okay, so with any luck, just going to make this a little bit smaller here. There we go. With any luck, I'm going to say test. Going to check this out. And yeah, it has the new to do from the server. Let's make the delay a little bit longer. Server. This post request, let's go ahead and make this timing, 5 seconds. And that way we can check. So now we have a really slow endpoint for creating a new to do. And let's go ahead and close this list. We got 3 to dos right here. We're going to create a new one. We're going to hit enter. We got the 4th one. It has a temporary ID. And then that post request came back, and now we have the server side true ID. So that's pretty cool. So that worked. Awesome. So that's not bad. Basically, yeah, we don't have to do this anymore. Why were we doing this? We were finding the old to do. This code actually might not work because in between this and this, that data could have changed. Although I guess if this is directly referencing the latest cached value, then that would be okay, because if this updates, this should update. You know what I think this mutate function should take? It should take a function right here. Current cache value, and then return based on that cache value. That would be nice. Looks like it uses uncache outside any React state or component tree, and as the cache is keyed by the key argument, it is component agnostic, which I guess means the data can be reused across multiple components. There you go. So that's what I was thinking. It's like just an object, but it's not. It has to be instantiated. It's weird because it's like singleton scope. But I guess that works out. It's pretty cool. Pretty cool. I feel like the mutate function here, based on current data. Oh. In many cases, you're receiving a single value back from your API and want to update the list. With mutate, you can pass a function which will receive the current cache value. All right. Not bad. Not bad. Read the docs, right? This is literally what I was just saying. So I think this is what we want. I don't actually even want. Okay, so this would be, yeah. This would be this code basically. So this would look like this. So we could do this, but I think this is bad because this is going to use stale new to-dos. Instead, what we want is to-dos right here. And we're going to move this code basically. So we want to find from the to-dos where our current the one we've just pushed in. And then we want to return the current to-dos yeah, just like this. So we don't get to clean up this code. I still think it'll be worth it. I still think we'll get to clean up some code. Map old to do I. If I is the new to do, then we'll replace it with the JSON from the server right there. Yep. Cool. So let's see if this works. Let's go back to our server here and add back in this delay. And okay, so here we have the initial fetch. Let's go ahead and look at the IDs here in the DOM. ID of 3, test. We have a temp ID of T1 right here. And then once that slow request gets created, we have the server right there, and it's in the right order. So I think that does it. So we can optimistically update the UI with mutate right here. We can send the post request to actually create the new to-do. And then if the component is still mounted, we can update our client-side cache for to-dos with the new to-dos from the server. And if I didn't pass in false here second, see, they have an example where they say, you're receiving a single value back from your API and want to update a list of all of them. With mutate, you can pass an async function, which will receive the current cache value and let you return an updated document. So I think they're just saying you can put this inside of this. Yeah. So I guess we could do that. So That's fine. Await fetcher. And I guess we can reuse our fetcher, right? But it needs to be able to take a method as well. I'm learning a lot, that's for sure. Let's make our fetcher take in a method. How do we want to use this guy? Fetcher, fetcher, fetcher. So basically I want to start replacing my calls to fetch with our little fetcher thing here. So this is going to be an async function. And I want to await fetcher API to-dos. Why don't we just keep the exact same method post body JSON.stringify new to do, right? Let JSON equals. And this way we can just hide. So fetch our fetcher. Post fetcher. So fetcher takes in a URL and then options, and then it just passes those to fetch. Okay. Post. So now we're just, this is actually no longer needed. But we might still have that bug. So I want to check. Check if this callback can run if we've unmounted. Okay, so we get the JSON for all the to-dos. Sorry, we create a new to-do. So this is the new to-do JSON. New to-do from server, basically. And then we want to update the list. And we could do something like this. But we still need to find it because this representation of this to-do already exists in our list. So we need to still do this kind of weird thing where we find it and then we replace it. But yeah, I want to see if everything after this await gets called if we've unmounted it. So new to-do JSON. And basically we're just swapping in our new to-do JSON from the server now that's been created into our cached value that represents this API/to-dos here. So okay, let's see if this works. Refresh. List of 3 to-dos right here. Let's grab the list item. Let's create a test to-do, test. Okay, we have it optimistic UI with our temporary ID of T1, and then the slow post request comes back, and that is replaced with the server ID of 4, and we don't get the refresh for this thing. So we don't have to have a new GET request to go out because we kind of know we have the data in this case. So that's working all as expected. Let's see what happens if we remove that false. I think it will trigger without the false a new fetch. So it's kind of weird that the way we're using mutate, well, let's see it first. Okay. Create a new to-do. Client side optimistic UI. Get the result back. Yeah, and then immediately refetch. So we don't really want that. I guess it doesn't really matter. But the way I think about this, I think I would use false here. I guess. I don't know. I guess it doesn't really matter. Just seems a little strange, but let's leave that like that. So it's kind of weird. What I was saying is that the way we're using mutate is basically never to like, we are busting the cache for this key and updating it ourselves, but then the default behavior of like refetching it, I wonder if we're kind of going against the spirit of SWR, which is like, you just, yes, SWR stands for stale while invalidate. So maybe the mental model here should be like, we just tell SWR like this key is invalid and let it do its thing. But right now we're not really, we're saying this key is invalid. Here's the new value for the cache, because I know more than you do at this point. I know that the new value for this should just be the existing to-dos plus our new one that just got back from this post request. So we'll keep this like this for now and see how it goes. Now I'm curious if the callback here will run if we're not mounted, because that's an issue you run into. So let's check this out. We might get a bug. And if not, that would be really cool. So let's hit test. UI is in sync, but the request is still coming back. Okay, so we didn't get a bug. So that's also very cool that, I guess it makes sense, right? Because in the old example, you'll see here, I was managing the state myself. So in the callback, when I updated the local to-dos list with the value from the server, I had to make sure I was in it is mounted check, because you can't call set state if a component's been unmounted. So anytime you have an async callback that you're doing that, you have to start adding this defensive code and check if you've mounted or not. But because we're able to use this mutate function from SWR, that just, we're not actually writing set state calls in this callback right here. We're just returning the new value. And so I guess SWR is able to be pretty smart about this and just say, oh, if the component's not mounted, then we'll just go ahead and throw away the return value. Or actually, they probably put it in the cache, but yeah, they're not calling, they have their own cache like we just saw. And so they're not, it doesn't even matter, which is pretty awesome. So that's pretty cool. So I can delete that comment. I can also delete this as if mounted check right here, which I like. Can delete our calls to set state. This request checker thing is going to be an interesting thing to tackle. But so far, this is looking pretty good. So now our create to do function creates this temporary ID, gives us this local new to do that we can use to optimistically update the UI. And then we reset the text box right here. And then we actually make the request. Yeah, I guess it's kind of weird that we're putting this in here, right? Because we could either make the request and then I'm thinking whether it makes more sense to have this in the body of mutate or to just say, let's make the request like this. I think this is probably clearer. Create the to-do. And then, yeah, update the client-side cache with the record from the server, right? And so this is not an async function anymore. But we still use our old value of to-dos here. So in case the value of to-dos that is associated with this cache key has changed in between this line and this line, this logic will still be valid. So I really like that they offered that function version right here. Basically like set state, right? Set state can take a function. And so if your new state depends on the previous state, you should always use the function version. So it feels a lot like that right here. This is basically set state. This is basically set my cached value for this key, and I'll give you the current value, and then you tell me what the new value is. So this is kind of like set state. I almost feel like mutate, it should just be called update to-dos. Like update. Mutate. Let's see. Yeah, it's really like revalidate, broadcast a revalidation mess. I don't like the word mutate. You can update your local data programmatically while revalidating. and finally replace with the latest data. It's almost like it's bust the cache, really. It's bust the cache associated with this key. I would like it to be called revalidate, maybe, or update cache, something like that. Cool. So that's pretty sweet. No more. We got to remove some defensive coding there. Let's keep going. So is loading. I don't think we're going to need this anymore. And let's see where else we're using our to-dos. So create to-do is good to go. Let's go ahead and commit. Replace fetch and create to-do with SWR. See, so we have a bug here, right? Where our patch update is still using the old code. And then when I come here and go back, this is being rendered from SWR's cache, which we're not using right now. So that's the next step. So let's follow this down and see exactly how this gets called. So save to do gets passed into on change for the to do record. We already did this, right? So we found that, yeah, save to do gets called, commit changes. We'll pass up the version up here. So let's come up here and find save to do. Okay. Request manager, no more. Oh, actually, before I do this, I wanted to refactor the what we just did, because I think it's pretty cool that you can use the bound version of mutate. So let's do that. Bound mutate comes right back from here. So basically, if we do mutate like this, and I'm going to call this update to-dos. Look, I get my wish. So everywhere we're using mutate, right here, and right here, we can now delete the key. Just like that. Let's see if it still works. It's pretty awesome. So get the list. Check it twice. All right, let's check out this LI. We got the temp ID right there. And it gets replaced with the server ID. So new to do. Pretty awesome. Seems to be working. And would be really interesting to see. We've got a slow post request, right? So if I create 3 to-dos quickly, jump over to about and come back to home, let's kind of follow the UI and the network request to make sure that that works. So 1, 2, 3, about, come back. It's pretty awesome. And then as those come back, this is going to be updating. So that's really cool. Let's try this again. 1, 2, 3. Come back here. Nothing's rendered, right? Those come back. And when I come back home, no new request. Well, that was a new request, but you could see it was already rendered, and all the IDs are correct. So this is actually, SWR is doing a lot more than I initially thought. One of my biggest problems when I started with React was not having a client-side data library that had a notion of global identity. And to me, that's how I think about building these apps, because if you have a to-do with ID 1 on the server, it should basically have a global representation in your React app, in your client-side app. That, to me, that's felt the most natural thing. It's what I was used to from my past work building SPAs. But that thing is a global entity, and so it should have that representation. And so that's kind of what we were trying to do with, we've tried to do that with Context, where you make this kind of global data store. A bunch of different libraries do that. And then I saw these kind of lighter weight data fetching libraries coming out, like SWR and React Query and Urkel and stuff like that. And I was like, well, they solve part of the problem by removing some of the boilerplate here for making requests from your components, but Like, what about this notion of like global identity? Well, it looks like basically it also tackles that too. So I'm really happy to see that. Basically, if I make a fetch to API to-dos, this is a global key, a global cache here. And I can manipulate that cache like this, and I can refetch it like this, or when I come back, or it looks like it's polling. And that way, no matter what component is mounted, basically the stability of the data and the referential integrity of that data based on how I update it is independent from my rendering. And this this use SWR hook and how we can read and manipulate the cache is just independent from the values of the cache. And so that's really cool. I'm really happy to see that. I think it's doing a lot more than I originally thought it did. So yeah, that's really cool, because now this is just rendering from cache and I didn't have to set anything up. Pretty awesome. So very, very cool. All right, so that was just use bound mutate. Nice little commit right there. Let's keep going. Let's do the save to do jazz. So we save to do, we get the new to do that we need to save. We're not going to use this request manager. And we're going to do the same, kind of jump through the same hoops that we did up here. We find the index of the to-do that we're saving in the list of to-dos. And this is using to-dos, but to-dos is wrong. It's new to-dos. We'll replace that once we get rid of all instances of to-dos. Yep, I did actually just commit it. And so request is not defined, right? This is nice. Just getting to remove a bunch of this defensive code that we had. So optimistic UI. So basically, when we click save, instead of setting the to-dos here, we're going to do the same thing that we did up here. Optimistic UI update. And it's going to look more like this, I think. So get the index and then update to-dos. So an update to-dos is our mutate call. We don't necessarily want to refetch, so we were just going to do to-do new to-dos dot map old to-do. If it matches the index, then we're going to replace it with our to-do that we are saving. Otherwise, we'll use the old version of the to-do right here. I bet there's a nicer pattern for here. Basically, I have this thing and I want to splice it into this array based on the ID and just like replace it. So I could probably write a little function, replace by new to-dos, replaced by something like array, a key function to do, something like that. I'm going to leave that alone for now. Okay, so here's the optimistic UI update. Delete that. And then we actually need to fetch, comment this out. And let's use our fetcher here. And it looks like we don't do anything with the return value. So let's see if this works. So before we did this, we had the bug where if I change this and then came over here and came back, it wasn't correct, but there it is correct. That's it. That's all there is to it. And we can see like the backend is update and the data is going over and everything because the 200 is coming back and the list is still accurate. So again, it's a little bit different than what I'm used to, but I kind of like it. It's basically, yeah, stale while revalidate. Like, it doesn't really matter. We haven't refetched the list since it's changed, but we know enough to give us an optimistic UI update. And then we'll go ahead and send that patch over. And if there was something about this request that was going to change data on the server that we didn't already know about in the client in our optimistic UI update, we would basically do the same thing right here, is we would just update the client side cache with the new data from the server after we get it back. But in this case, we don't need to, so we just do this. And there might be some opportunity to extract some of this where like we can just update it with the new data simply, but I think this is fine for now. So now we've got save working, I think. We don't have the little indicator showing up. So that's all still broken right now, which is important. Maybe I should have done that before. Let's actually save this. Git commit, update, save, to do, to use SWR. And let's see if we can get that indicator back. So let's do it for creating. So the way that indicator works, and I'll go ahead and delete this as well. The indicator shows if is saving is true. So if I change this to true, we'll see our little cloud icon right here. And we want that cloud icon to show whenever a mutation request is going out, whenever a write is going out, basically. And before, is saving was just derived from this little manager that we made, where you can create a manager and then just check if it has pending requests. And every one of these mutation functions used the manager to create a new request, and then it called request.done when it was all over. So I want to see if there's any derived state from our mutations where we can, and we might just end up doing a similar kind of thing. But it'd be nice if we could do something with using SWR. So basically this is interesting because SWR, we actually only use this hook when we are fetching data. And so is validating is interesting. If there's a request or a revalidation loading. That might be it. And maybe no, but that's coming from use SWR. We don't want that on the fetching side. We want that on the mutation side. Suspense, initial data, revalidate on focus, revalidate on refresh interval. Deduping interval, focus are. In many cases, playing low way to get faster. I basically want some data back from mutate that tells me when the thing is done without me having to create new state to track it. Return data from mutate. Returns the updated document. Or throw an error. Bound mutate. Oh man, I don't think it has anything. I really wish mutate had basically so create calls fetch and then update to-dos. Yeah, I guess the state is not coming from mutate, is it? Now that would be pretty cool. And that would give me reason to move this async post request back inside of my mutate function here, update to-dos. Because then I wouldn't have to check whether my component is mounted or not. Basically, I just want some state that says, are any requests going out right now? And it looks like all we have is the is validating guy from the query side, but we need something from the mutation side. So we might need something like this silly request manager. It's just some state. The problem is we have to check if it's mounted every time we update that state. It's so dumb. I want a good way to say, okay, when I create to do right here, this is an async call. So I want to set state. And this is the thing, right? In this app, there are n requests. So if I click this, then this, there's 3 requests going out. And while those things are going out, basically the logic is if at least one of them is going out, then we should show that indicator. So that's state that's derived off of all of these things. Maybe fetcher. Maybe we could like encapsulate this inside of fetcher. Maybe fetcher could be stateful, and it could keep track of that. But that's like the whole point of this, is to avoid writing this stuff. So it's kind of silly to me. I might ask about this. In the meantime, let's use this. Request manager. How do we use this dumb thing that we wrote? Request create. And then when it's done, you call request done. It's so stupid. Create to do. Create the to do. Request manager. If it's mounted, so now when we create, we get some feedback. And the post is still a 5-second one, so that's actually good. That tells us that it hasn't saved yet until that thing is done. And we need the is mounted check, I think. Because if I were to go over here, while that long post request is going out, we're going to get, oh, we don't get an, oh yeah, we don't get an error because we're checking. But if I were to remove this check, come over here, create a new to-do, optimistic UI update, but the post request hasn't come back. We switch routes, we unmount. There we see that stupid error. So I'm not sure if SWR can help us here. You know, I was looking at React query. Which seemed a little bit more complex. But right here, how's this different from Zeit's SWR? Use mutation, a dedicated hook for handling generic life cycles around triggering mutations, handling their side effects. SWR does not ship with anything similar. You might find yourself re-implementing most, if not all, of use mutations functionality in user land. With this hook, you can extend the life cycle of mutations, reliably handle successful refetching failure. And so this is, I think this is kind of like what, I think this might be what I'm missing, what I wish existed. So right there, we get a mutate function that we can invoke, but we also get the status of it. So we would, what would that look like in our code? We would, what is ping mutation here? Create to do, trigger an API request. So we would basically put this logic right here up. We would use mutation, passing in this guy, and we would get a save to do function. But we'd also get back a status. And it would take care of that check for us. So we could use the status and we would have n of these, right? So I wonder how that works. In this app, when I click on these to-dos like this, 1, 2, 3, we would call this 3 times. So let's say we used mutation, we passed in save to do async function, and we got back save to do function that we can invoke from our click handler. If I called it 3 times concurrently, and there's 3 of those still going out, what would the status be? Options, returns, status will be loading if the mutation is currently executing. But what about, so is this if any mutation is currently executing? Because then it would basically what we wanted, which would be pretty cool. Because then in our UI code, we could just say, all right, show this cloud if save to do is running, or delete to do is running, or create to do is running. And that would be what I want. So this is pretty neat. So I'm not going to switch to this, but I do wish SWR had something similar. Basically seems like it kicks the can down the road for us. SWR is like your fetcher is your own deal. And if you want, so you're going to use anything there. And if you want some state derived from it, that's not our concern. It feels like SWR is focused on the data fetching case. And so UI will always be fast and reactive. So that's kind of like the emphasis of this library, which is cool. But apps gotta write too, you know. Apps can't just read. Apps gotta write. So we're still on our own here, which kind of is a bummer. But that wasn't too bad. So that shows it's saving. And then it goes away once that slow request comes back. Cool. Let's do it for saving as well. So every time we save, we're going to do the same thing. Manager, create a request, request.done. Save to do. Create, await, if, so stupid, is mounted ref.current. Request.done. Why do we use a ref for is mounted? Can't you just use state for this? Can't we just say use is mounted? I hate refs. Anyone else hate refs? I hate refs. Function, use is mounted. I don't know why we used refs here. Use effect. Let is mounted, set. I don't even think I need this. Let is mounted. Do I need state here? Set is mounted equals use state. True. Return a function that sets is mounted to false. Return is mounted, right? Okay, let's see if this works. So let's get the bug back. Let's get rid of this. Let's make this like 2 seconds. So the post request takes 2 seconds. When we create the to-do, we forget to check if we're mounted. And so I create a to-do. I come over here. The callback happens. We get an error. Now, is mounted. Use is mounted. Our stateful version. So let's wrap this. If is mounted. Like that. Refresh the app. Create a new to-do. Come over here. Yeah. I don't know why we use the ref version. Why do we use the ref version? I think we just didn't know React at the time. Let's see if the thing actually clears. Oh. Something happened. Test. The effect needs to set is mounted to true. Oh, maybe this is where I have a feeling I know what's going to happen here. When we render, we set is mounted to true. What's the problem here, buddy? What's the problem? Oh yeah, this is supposed to just be on initial, like that. All right. Save that bad boy. Test. Switch over. Whoops, forgot to check. Huh? Oh. Hook runs. Effect runs. Mounted is true. I think this must be why we went to a ref, because when we clean up, we call set is mounted to false, but it's like too late. Maybe if we had set is mounted to false right here. This is a nightmare. Maybe we just do this. This is like, I get so confused by this stuff. Okay, too many re-renders. Set is mounted to false. If is mounted. I'm just trying to rewrite this dumb is mounted hook with state instead of a ref, so I don't have to use .current, because I think it's so dumb. Okay. See, that seemed to work. Test. Okay, but it's not getting toggled. It's not working. Oh, of course. I'm setting it to false every time it's true. I guess you can't do this with state. I'm gonna abandon this for now. I'm gonna stick with my is mounted ref, even though I hate it with the passion of 1,000 suns. The fire. There has to be a cleaner pattern for cleaning up in an async callback than doing stuff like this, because I can't stand it. So I'll have to ask about that. Let's see if we got our little indicator back. Come here, little indicator. Let's see what you got. All right, we got the cloud right there, and it goes away. And if I do this and navigate away before the callback runs, boom, we don't get an error. But our data's still there. Awesome. Okay. Making moves here, making moves. Let's try our save. Did we do it with save? Yes. Optimistic UI update. Save the to-do. Save the updated to-do. Okay. ABC. Oh, wait. Let's save it. Like that. Works. While saving. Come back. Still there. Awesome. What did we just do? What have we just done? Not much. Yep, not much. Just cleaning up stuff, really. Git commit, cleaning up. Tidy. Okay, we're getting close, we're getting close. We patched it. Oh yeah, this all works too, because it all goes through the same thing. That's pretty cool. Seriously, where's my styling for these checkboxes? I don't understand what happened. So weird. Mirage, React demo.netlify. These look great. What happened? I'm not using the form thing though either, which is kind of weird. It's very strange. All right, we're also missing this clear completed button. You know, I really should have, do I have tests for this app? Oh, snap. We have some tests for this. Let's see what's happening here. Package, test, yarn test. We should have some failing tests. This is pretty cool, actually. I don't think this is super comprehensive, but run all tests, dog. Thank you. We've got, let's see what we got here. Shows a loading message, shows a message if there are no to-dos, it can create a to-do, it shows existing to-dos, and it can complete a to-do. So it can create a to-do, unable to find an element, test ID loading. So this is pretty cool. Wow, tests, who would have thought? They come in handy. It can create a to-do, renders the app, checks for loading, creates a new form. I mean, it gets the form, it types in walk the dog, it submits the event, it waits for saving to be removed. Oh, that's cool. So we just fixed that, but everything is, something's still not working. Like line 37 here. Home about, to-dos. Everything's done. Can I do like it dot only? You know what? I suspect I know what's going on. It can create a to-do. It passed when it was run on its own, and it failed right here. I bet I know what's going on. I bet if I commented these two out, it can create a to will pass. Yep. The cache from SQR is outside of React, and it's not being reset. I need to reset it after each test. Oh wait, I'm looking at the wrong guide. Okay, let's see here. SWR, reset, clear, cache, test. There's got to be a way to do this. I wish I'd been using my tests this whole time. That's literally why I had them. It's a much better way to refactor. I just assumed I didn't have tests because I'm like a cowboy coder when I crack open a React app. But we literally could have been following the test. Actually, we can take this opportunity to make the test suite a little bit more robust. So if it's not already. So reset cache, testing. Testing. Cleanup. What is cleanup? After each cleanup, what does that do? Sounds promising. App test. We are using React testing library. React testing library. Cleanup, cleanup, cleanup. Hoping this is gonna do what we want. Cleanup API. I wonder if this is new. Unmounts the component from the container and destroys the container. Default on import runs it after each test, or like this for more control. Okay. Render fire event, cleanup, testing library React after each. just going to copy the test here from SWR, right? Seems reasonable. Let's see if this fixes our tests. Shoot. Let's go back to the test because I don't know if these last two work. Can complete. Okay, so I'm running one test in isolation right now. It can create a to-do. And it works. And if I add these guys back in, how have I not been using this the whole time? See, it's a problem. Because the cache is not being reset. SWR. You would think there'd be a guide for this. I need to reset. I'm going to ask this guy on Twitter who responded to me because, yeah, its own cache outside of React state or component tree. This was my guess. Thanks for the link. Actually running into an issue right now with this in tests. The cache is persisting across my tests. And I don't know how to reset it. There has to be a way. Reset cache. Clear page cache on reset pages. Reset pages. Reset? No. So this is a new API they're adding to, what is pages? Reset pages. Set page SWRs. No, it seems wrong. Cache collection. Is there a reset? What is use SWR pages? What is this? Page? I don't know what this stuff is. Come on, there has to be something. I just need to clear the cache. I need to reset the cache. How could they possibly write tests without this? There has to be a way. There has to be a way. Use SWR pages test. I think this is a new API. It should render the first page component. Use SWR pages. This is TypeScript. Page 1. Clean up. Import cache from source cache. There has to be cache. Dot set. Cache dot set. Cache dot set. Cache dot delete. I want like cache dot delete all. And I don't know if I can just import cache like this. Delete cache. Come on. types. Delete cache interface. Global state. So helpful, and also it can be the most helpful thing. Clear cache? Is it? Clear cache. Auto import from prettier. Clear cache. Is it a thing? Have a way to clear cache in my test. This would be awesome. Something like that. I've tried this. For testing purposes, what I made to solve is to ensure I'm always using different keys since they are based on prop. No, that's ridiculous. Yeah, exactly. Oh, here we go. Expose cache. $231. Expose cache. This was on Feb 24th. Expose. Why is this on the README? Looks great. Let's ship it. What about the docs? I just want to see. You just import cache and you call cache.clear. Feb 26, I tried it and found issues because the deduping feature. Not enough time has passed. Fix it in 2 ways. Deduping interval 0 to the configs of use SWR. No. Refuse. Wrap the component to test in SWR config and set deduping interval. No, that was helpful, Beth, for sure. I think that was a proposal, but I think there is a public cache that was exported here. I'm just reading through so I don't have to go through all this learning myself. It hasn't been released to NPM yet. Oh, okay. It was released as a beta. Okay. Thanks so much for this share. I think it'd be nice to have this kind of info in the docs. Okay, that's why. All right, that explains it. Looks like it's a new feature. So I need this for sure. So we're going to bring in, we're getting crazy here. We're going into beta territory. SWR, releases, latest release is 020. It was released as a beta in this guy. And 020 beta 0 before making it stable, but 020 is stable. Okay, 2 days ago. Awesome. So we should have it. Expose cache. Okay, so it's just a link to this guy. So I just like reading docs. I just want to see this thing used. I think it's just cache.clear. I just want to see it import cache from SWR. All right, I'm just going to do it. Cache dot clear. So if I run into the same issue as these guys, this shouldn't fix it. So I'm going to import, get rid of this. This is our app code. So in our test code here, we're going to import cache from SWR. And after each, we're going to call cache.clear. And I'm going to get rid of this because I don't know if you even need that cleanup function from React testing library, but we'll see. Where's my app? Localhost 8000. Oh, okay. Tests. Oh, wait. Wait, it worked. I thought we were going to have to do some more stuff. Wait, did that really fix it? Boom. It's just 2 lines. They just need a place in the guides for it. Gosh dang it. Why isn't there anything about this in the guides at all? Testing. No, we can't wash our hands from it. You know what I'm going to do? I'm going to do this like the world's simplest thing here. Prefetching data. All right. README. Edit. Testing. If you are writing tests against code that uses SWR, you will likely need to, because SWR uses a global cache. Testing. You will need to reset it in between your tests. Otherwise, in between your tests. Otherwise, cache data from one test could leak into another test. JavaScript. To reset the cache, use the cache named import and call cache.clear after each test. C number 231 CPR for more info on the cache API. I mean, that would have saved me, what, 10 minutes, 15, 20 minutes, just having that in the README. Add small note on cache.clear and testing in the README. I know, this is a newer feature, but it took me some digging to find it. Cache.clear works like a charm. Should be fine, right? Render that markdown. Come on, you can do it. Because SWR uses global cache, you will need to reset it in between your tests. Otherwise, cache data from one test could leak into another test, To reset the cache, use the cache named import and call cache clear after each test. Super. Okay. Into another. Cache data could leak across tests. Okay, we're getting close. All right, so now we should be able to see our test suite and we should have some failures. Because I know we haven't implemented all the functionality yet. So we have bad tests right now because I'm pretty sure something doesn't work right now, which is deleting a to-do, right? Create a to-do, save a to-do, delete completed. Also, our indicator is gone. So I want to add a test for that. So I kind of want to go back to master really quick and add a test for this so that we have a passing test suite. I really wish I would have done this whole thing running the test suite. Maybe if we refactored a React query, we'll do it that time. But we can just add it here because really this is broken. So let's go to our Mirage React demo. And 0 out of 3 complete. That's also broken. Clearly. And this is not showing up. So let's add some assertions to our UI here to get some failing tests. So let's start with the 0 out of 1 complete. So it shows existing to-dos. It can create a to-do. That all works. It can complete a to-do. So we create two to-dos with Mirage. Let's just only run this one. We render the app. We wait for loading to be removed. We fetch all the to-dos. We click on the checkbox for the second to-do right here. And at this point, we can actually assert that this updates because this is optimistic, right? So click that. It should go to 1 out of 4. So basically, we should make an assertion right here. Expect it to say 1 out of 2 complete, right? So let's see where this is complete right here. This is going to get a test ID of completed to-dos message or something like that. Completed to-dos. And we're going to expect get by test ID. And I want to assert against the text content value. How do I do this? React testing library. I want to assert that the contents is 1 out of 2. And it should be 0 out of 2. We should have a failing test. We should be able to fix it. Frameworks. React testing example. To have text content. Foo. Okay, so this should fail. Testing is so fun. Why does no one write tests? Whoa. Expect to have text content foo. Failed. Unexpected token. Unexpected semicolon. Okay, yeah, I fixed it, buddy. You can do it, little computer. You got it, buddy. Expect element to have text content foo. Okay, perfect. So we expect it to have 1 out of 2 complete. And it has 0 out of 2. Failing test. Oh, this is the best feeling in the world. Ready? Are we all ready to experience this together? 1 out of complete. Done. Let's figure out where done is defined. Done. To-dos filter. Watch this. New to-dos filter. Save that. Test rerun. Damn it. Oh, right. Just going to move this guy right down. Yeah. try again. Let's try again. No problems. Cannot property filter of undefined. Oh, okay. It's fine. Yeah, this is dumb. I don't like this defensive coding. This is something else that's like, all right, this is fine. Whatever. Wonderful. All right. Just fixing tests. Just making them green out here like a monster. Check that out. Boom, 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 boom. 2 out of 3. 3 out of 3. 2 out of 3. 3 out of 3. 3 out of 4. 4 out of 4. Look at that. Look at that. Okay, let's... I'm pretty sure that the app still doesn't work completely, so I'm curious about these other passing tests. So we made it better. We made our test suite better. By the way, it's pretty cool that we're like re-implementing the entire data fetching layer of our app and we haven't had to rewrite the tests. It's a sign of a good test suite. Really like React testing library for this reason. Can complete it to do. Oh, okay, I did have that already. Wait. Okay. Wait, I feel like we're still having test leakage. One out of 2 complete. Received 1 out of 3 complete. What? It's still leaking somehow. Okay, so this might be related to what that person was saying, which sucks. Because I think if I were to comment this test out, we get that last test would be passing. So let's check out, what was that, 231? See, they all pass. Brittle tests are actually worse than no tests. But doing drugs is worse than both. I don't know if you knew that. But brittle tests are pretty bad. So I think there's some comment here about how this still leaks. Right here. Wrap the component to test in SWR config and set deduping interval to 0 there. This kind of sucks. I should update the... I'm not going to repeat this every time. App for testing. Const app for testing is going to be this guy. How about just app? How about, oh, I hate this kind of stuff. App. Wrapped app? No, app. Unwrapped. Sounds a little dirty. Raw app. Like that. You can do it, buddy. You can do it, compiler. Yes. Okay. That's better. So, we have our test passing, can complete a to-do. It shows existing to-dos. It can create a to-do, and all that stuff actually does work. Correctly, right? A, boom, boom, Boom. I guess we could add some assertions about the cloud icon thing that it eventually goes away. And if it doesn't, you know what? That's okay. It's okay right now. Let's get this clear completed button working. So looks like we don't have a test for this because that doesn't work right now, but our test suite is passing. So let's fix that. So in our app that works, when I click clear completed, we get a delete request to everything, right? Like, yeah, yep. So it can clear completed to-dos. So let's start out with a to-do that's done, right? We'll start out with a to-do that's done, and so we'll have two to-dos, one that's done, assert 1 out of 2 is complete, click clear completed, and then 0 out of 1 is complete. Let's do that. I think that's a pretty good test. So to-do 1 is done, to-do 2 is not done. We'll go ahead and render. And then we'll assert that 1 out of 2 is complete. So far we should have a passing test. Yep. And then we want to go ahead and click. No, it should already be done. So what we want to do is click the clear completed button. So this is a button. So let's come back to our app button, clear completed, data test ID. And how do I click? Click user event, click, 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 click. Get by test ID, clear completed. And I think that should fail because right now it's not even showing up. That's not really useful. But I guess it's let button equals. Like I would expect this to fail basically. All right, let's see if fixing it fixes it. So clear completed is only shown if new to-dos.length, if done is greater than 0. So done actually should show us. So what's going on here? Oh, the button does exist. The button exists. It just doesn't do anything. It doesn't do anything. Why doesn't it do anything? An update to to-dos inside a test was not wrapped in act. No, that's not true. You're joshing me. It can clear a complete to-do. Pretty confused right now, not gonna lie. User event.click, the checkbox. Pretty confused. I haven't used act at all ever. I never do that. So what's the dealio, bro? Just a convenience export that points to... Okay. I'm not writing preact. light wrapper around act function. All it does forward. Okay. To prepare a component for assertions. Act, render. No, I refuse. I refuse. Render the app, wait for it to be removed. No, it's something with this. Click. I just want to see an example of clicking a button. React testing library, cheat sheet. Click. Fire event. What is user event? That's like this other thing I'm using, isn't it? Maybe I shouldn't be using that. Let me just try this one. Button. Come on, we can do this. We can do this. Okay, let's fix the app first and maybe the test will come later. I really do wish I had like a green test here because it's hard to know if it's my code or if it's the testing stuff. We can always go back to master and try to write a passing test if we are having trouble with this. I kind of want to do that actually. Let's do that real quick. Should be easy. I'm going to grab this. Git diff. Okay. Fixing tests for SWR. Get checkout master. Yarn test. Just run them all. Just do what I want. I shouldn't have to tell you. You're a computer. Okay, we got 5 tests passing. All right, let's paste this bad boy right in here. It.only can clear completed to-dos. Failed. That's because our app doesn't have a completed to-dos right here. Data test ID. Oh, wait, this one. Data test ID. Completed to-dos, and this is was I literally like clear completed. Okay, one passed. All right, let's see if we can do this. So first of all, I just want to see if I can click this dang button. Unable to find element. Data test ID. Okay, so we were getting the same thing. I just don't understand why we're seeing this like for the first time. I have 5 other tests here, and we do user event. I'm so confused. Click a button. Await for saving icon to be removed. Oh, we did have that. We did have that assertion in here. That's cool. So that line does already cover our little cloud icon. I was worried about that. And let's just see. Maybe we just didn't like. We needed to wait. Ah, okay. 0 out of 1 completed. Very, very cool. And then okay, awesome. And then we want to expect the server db to-dos, that length, to have, what is it, to have length? Yeah. To have length 1. Okay, this is really neat. Yep. Awesome. So we're in business, baby. That thing was so confusing. That error I didn't understand that at all. I don't know why. I don't know what the deal with that error was. But this is exactly the test that we want. So I'm going to go ahead and copy this just like that. So this is, if you haven't seen this before, this is pretty cool. We write a test where we create two to-dos with Mirage. We render the app. We check that it says 1 out of 2 complete because one of them is done. We click clear completed. That sends delete request to the one that's done. We verify that the UI is correct. Now it says 0 out of 1 complete. And then we also verify in Mirage that the record actually was deleted. So it kind of is giving you some guarantee that both your Mirage code is working the way you expect and that your React app actually made a delete request to the backend. So it's pretty awesome. All right, so let's go ahead and throw this away. Let's switch back to, what was it, use SWR? Yeah. And now, well, we can just paste this right in there. And now we can say yarn test. We shouldn't get that weird act error anymore. I really don't know what that was about. And now we have a failing test. Yes. So now we can actually fix the test. We know this test should pass because we just saw it pass on master. Very, very cool. We're getting close. We are getting close. On click, delete completed. How do I like find other uses of this guy? Async function. Await promise all. Right. Completed. Remaining. I think we probably just need to replace this with new to-dos. And then optimistically update. So we're going to use our update to-dos function. And remaining to-dos. So this is an optimistic UI update. And then for each one of the completed to-dos, we are going to call delete on them. We're going to use our fetcher so that this guy's going to return the JSON. We don't really care about that. Oh, we do. Because, well, our fetcher isn't really that good. Our fetcher expects the response to be JSON, but it might not. So fetch response has data. I just want to see if response, let's just put a debugger in our development here. Okay, we got that. Cool. Right here. Let's go ahead and drop a debugger. Where are we at? Create to do, save to do, delete completed. Then response, return that, debugger that. I just want to check out this thing. Okay, when we clear it and the response comes back empty, type default, status, headers. Oh wait, that's like a refresh. Here we go, 204, response. No content. How can I tell if the response to a fetch request, this is what's giving us an error. Fetch, check if response is JSON. Really? Response dot headers. Okay. All right. Seems okay. Response dot headers dot map. Content type. Seems a little silly. I honestly just want to see if there is a response body. Console dot there are. Okay. Type default. Status text, no content. Body text. MDN fetch response object. Headers. What's with this map property? I don't like this. Methods. Get. Get seems pretty cool. Content type. Response.headers.get. Content type. And is that like case insensitive? Very cool. I think that's what we'll do. So refresh this bad boy. Application JSON. If headers get content type is like matching JSON. Then, yep, we'll return that. Okay, just making our little fetcher a little bit more robust. So we can use it everywhere. So now that works. That all works. That all works. And with any luck, clear completed works. But we've messed up our cache value here. Oh, that's probably why we have a failing test still. Okay, we're getting closer. Oh, we're so close. I can feel it. Delete completed. Update to-dos. That works. For each one of these, we delete. And then something's happening in between. I don't know what that is. 200. Why does that thing keep refreshing? I want to figure out why that's refreshing. I don't know. It's fine. Okay, clear completed. Why is there a get that comes back? Oh, I think I know what it was. What? We patched it. We cleared it. But there was a get right before. Patch. Clear. Why is there a get right before? Ah, I bet I know why, because we didn't pass in false. Yep. That's good. That feel like that's biting me. Check it. Patch. Delete. This is in sync. That's it. Do. do. That's it. That's it. Oh, boom. Test is passing. Oh, nice. Nice work, everybody. Good job, team. You did well. Oh, wait. I'm alone in my apartment. Actually, delete all completed to-dos. All right. Get rid of this only. Let's see if we have this whole test suite passing. So cool. Love testing. Love it. Feels pretty good. The app feels pretty good. I'm pretty happy with this. I'm pretty happy with this. Check this off. Feels pretty good. Feels pretty good. Awesome. All right. Is there anything else we can clean up here? So we still have our garbage trash is mounted ref that we need. We have this weird handle change rubbish. That's just, that's probably something we could still improve. This is so stupid. Use ref state. But it's pretty neat that we were able to refactor the entire data layer. So if we look for fetch, we're now only using it in fetcher right here. And so fetcher is just a little lightweight, just a tiny little lightweight thing. And we were able to, I mean, if we got rid of this, this would be awesome. I think if we use that other library, we'd be able to get rid of this dumb thing. It might even be better. Okay, we can get rid of our state. So we don't manage to do state anymore, which is pretty neat. I mean, we're effectively doing something similar. We're just using this. But it's really cool because of how it's reusing the cache even when we unmount our component. So again, kind of the point I made earlier about the global cache pointing to these resources, it would really start to pay off if we were making, you know, a more complicated application. There's 2 pages here, and already you can see it's just nice because in the current demo, you know, we kind of refetch every time because we just didn't bother setting up the global cache. Here we kind of get it for free, so it's pretty awesome. So that's really nice. We get to use this bound mutate function, which is coming back from use SWR, which lets us have control over the client-side cache if we want to make the application have an optimistic UI. So also very cool. And that's about it. I don't think there's any problems here. We got a passing test suite. So this is pretty satisfying refactoring, actually. It can clear completed to-dos. So clear completed to-dos. Let's do a PR to this and see the entire diff on GitHub. Git push. It is a shame that we couldn't get rid of the request manager. There might be a simpler way to implement it, but that's okay. React demo. This PR adds SWR to use for data fetching and persistence. It also adds a test covering the clear completed to-dos behavior. Man, how did I not remember that we had tests at the beginning? That is hilarious. So 91 new lines, 51 old lines. So, okay, we aren't getting to delete lines per se, but we also added some boilerplate here for the test. We also added an entirely new test. That's 28 lines right there. We have this fetcher guy. We get to remove our manual tracking of to-dos and is loading. We still have control over the optimistic UI update here. We got to remove this because we had this little fetcher abstraction that we made. And we're basically doing the same steps as we were before, but yeah, we're just getting to use, we got some of those benefits from SWR right out of the box. You know, it's basically revalidating itself all the time. We have this notion of updating the cache all the time. It's a global cache. So I really like it so far, especially as an incremental upgrade step kind of from just using plain fetch, right? This one is the big win, right? This is the big win right here. So the more data fetching in your app, I think that's where the benefits of SWR really starts to shine. We don't have to use effect. And all of this is basically derived right here. And if it's shared, it's shared. So we don't even have context in this app. In a lot of our apps, we would be able to replace context as well. Other than that, all the data is just derived from this stuff. Oh yeah, we have a slow delay on our post request here. We left in, that's fine. So it's pretty nice little PR right here, I think. Definitely learned a little bit about this library. I think it's really cool. And yeah, might be interesting to do the same thing with React Query and kind of compare and contrast. You know, I always like, for these client-side data libraries, I like learning them kind of in this way against Mirage because it's just a simple version of the data, but you're really, you know, if you watch this video, you get to understand that if you're talking to a real network or network-like interface like Mirage, you run up against all the little issues with the stale state and the concurrent requests. So if I'm learning a new data fetching library, for sure, I like to use something like that that's realistic. And especially when we have our test, it feels easy to stress all the scenarios. So that was pretty successful. I'm pretty happy with how that ended. So yeah, thanks for watching and see you soon. Bye, everybody.